Am I wrong for refusing to see other options for a girl and pressing charges for what she had done to my son's car? My 39 male, son 17 male, Bryce dated our neighbor Lana, 17 female, for a year. They broke up mid-January for reasons I don't know. I won't sugarcoat this. I never liked Lana. She always seems a little unhinged, controlling, and aggressive. She's always demanding Bryce's attention, and there was quite a few times when she showed up to our house out of nowhere. Whether it was 7 a.m. or 11 p.m. because Bryce wasn't answering his phone, screaming and calling him a cheater when it wasn't like that. The thought of our son getting abused by his girlfriend made us worry so much. My wife and I tried to talk him out of that relationship. We said how it wasn't normal nor healthy. We didn't want to force the breakup because we feared Lana would lash out on him, so we tried to do it in a sneaky way. We don't know if it worked, but they ended up breaking up. He said that after he broke up with Lana, she didn't contact him, which was weird because she expected her to go nuts, but I told him that if fate didn't give him shit, he better not tease it. Now, the problem is that we bought my son a car for Christmas. Nothing fancy, just enough to get him to school, his job, and eventually college. He parks it in our driveway outside our home. Ever since the month began, we had been finding scratches all over the car. We knew Lana was doing this, but since it was minimal, my son decided not to do anything, even if we could prove that it was her. We have CCTV. Still, something felt bad to me, so I decided to switch one of the cameras facing his car directly just in case. Well, 2 weeks ago, we got up and we found my son's car covered in a lot of shit. Paint, glue, feathers, confetti, the door handles were wrecked, flat tires, paint all over the windows, you get the picture. Bryce and my wife were so distraught. We called the police and handed them the CCTV of Lana and her brother, 23 male, destroying my son's car. We pressed charges and needless to say, Lana's brother went straight to jail. But since she's still a minor, her parents want to make a deal, but I refused. I don't think she should get a way out. Before the police was here, she was laughing her ass off and she tried to play it cool. If she thought this was funny, then she's old enough to face the consequences. My wife and I want to stand our ground, but her parents say they'll buy my son a better car and put Lana in therapy, but it's not enough. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for leaving the hospital after my husband called for his mom instead of me? My husband, 31, was in the hospital for a surgery that involved anesthesia. His mom came to wait with me there but didn't speak to me because we have been having some minor disagreements. Hours after the surgery, we were told only one person goes into the room for the day since he was still under anesthesia. From what I understand, he woke up calling for his mom. The nurse asked for his mom to go in and she did. I was irritated and felt like all this waiting and stressing out got ignored. The nurse told me that he was not fully awake and was repeatedly calling for his mom spontaneously. She was basically hinting that I shouldn't get worked up over a natural reaction from my husband, but I couldn't help feel irked. I wanted to go home, so I left 10 minutes later. His mom called saying she got out of the room after I left so I could get some time with him, but instead I couldn't wait and went home. She said this was not okay and I flew off the handle for no reason. I said that her son acted like I wasn't there, but she said that he cannot be blamed for something he can't control, and I'm just being unfair to him and putting blame on him because of a disagreement between her and I. I cut the conversation short after I sensed that she somehow blamed me for being unacknowledged and ignored. Her husband texted later saying I'm being hostile over nothing and that I should focus on my husband's health instead of acting petty, but I don't think I did anything that qualifies as petty. You're mad that your husband is on drugs and called for his mama. It's like a natural person reaction, like that's his mom. Am I wrong for forcing my roommate to miss her finals exam that she spent 2 years studying for? Context: I live with a roommate and her 3-year-old child. Roommate is a 4th-year medical student and is really struggling having to balance with child, intense study workload, chores, and part-time jobs to afford rent, babysitter, and necessities. On the day of the biggest exam of her entire degree, her babysitter canceled last minute. She was absolutely frantic and hysterically called every one of her contacts to help. Of course, she asked me. She has asked me before to babysit, and I always give a stern no. It's not the time that I need to spend since I'm perfectly fine with swapping around chores, but the principle that I must be responsible for the child for the duration. Example, if the child hurts himself, no matter how badly, it would be on me. And I refuse to take that responsibility for something like that, so I always refuse to babysit. She begged me, and since the journey to her exam center is almost 2 hours and she needed to go now, she just said, I don't effing care, and just left the house. Frankly, I found this quite disrespectful as it is trying to push me to babysit without my consent. Right after she left, I grabbed my coat and also left. She was starting her car when she saw me and asked what I was doing. I told her I was going to watch a movie. I lied. I just refused to babysit without consent. Her eyes dropped and I could see the tears forming as she started begging me more to help her. I still explained the same thing and that it's not the time or effort but the responsibility. She told me she would sign a waiver that states I am 100% not responsible no matter what happens. I am not an expert in law and not sure if such a waiver is even legally enforceable. Even so, it still carries a responsibility risk, so I stand my ground. Eventually, she became quiet and started sobbing while hitting herself. I, as respectably as I can, asked if there's anything I can help with that does not involve babysitting the child. She told me to F off, so I did and actually went to watch a movie. It's been a few weeks and she still absolutely refuses to communicate with me. I do feel pretty bad, since I've seen for the past 2 years we've lived together that she has almost no free time, always sleeps later than me, and wakes up earlier than me to cram in a little bit of extra study. I know the exam meant a lot to her, and missing the exam might jeopardize her entire degree of 4 years. It sucks that her efforts for the past 2 years has gone down the drain, but that's not an excuse to cross my bottom line.
Am I the asshole for cooking scraps for dinner? I'm 27 female and my boyfriend is 41 male. We need to go grocery shopping but have leftovers in the fridge from last night, which I assume could be eaten this evening. These leftovers are uncooked burger patties, pasta salad, and grilled corn. At 7 p.m. this evening, my boyfriend asked what I was making for dinner. I reminded him of the leftovers and he said I was throwing a hissy fit over not wanting to cook him a good meal. Then he said he'd probably just eat some crackers or something and he'd have to figure it out himself, then fell back asleep. After he fell asleep, I felt horrible, so I cooked him some rice, ground beef, peppers, onions, and grilled some fresh corn. Am I the asshole for cooking scraps for dinner? I mixed it all together with some homemade chipotle sauce, then baked it with some cheese to melt. When I presented it to him, he wouldn't even taste it. He then asked if I got fresh ingredients at the store or used what we had. I told him I cooked everything fresh, but it was bought yesterday. The corn hadn't been cooked before, the pepper hadn't been cooked before, etc. It was all extra ingredients that I hadn't used yesterday. He then told me I ruined his night further by not listening to him and letting him make his cracker meal. He said I'm a horrible girlfriend for trying to serve him scraps, and I insisted that's not scraps. He said leave me alone to starve.
I caught my neighbor trying to open my apartment door. Should I be worried? Disclaimers is not my story time. It's me on Instagram. I just moved into my new apartment 2 months ago. Everything's been completely normal and fine up until a few weeks ago. I went to my mailroom to pick up some packages and there happened to be one of my neighbors there. He says his name is Jerry and he actually introduced himself to me. I had never seen him before, but he just said, "Hey, how are you?" I said, "Hi." And then he said, "Are you new to the building?" And I confirmed that I was new to the building. That's when he said that I looked familiar to him and he asked me where I went to school. I told him where I went to school and then he started asking me more questions. But the more questions he asked me, the more I realized he was just trying to find me on Facebook. I didn't give him my last name or anything. But ultimately, this guy knows where I live, so I was just like, whatever. That's when he started recommending restaurants and cafes around our neighborhood. He just kept talking and talking and talking. I ended up standing there for 10 minutes listening to him talk until I told him I had to leave. That's when he said it was so nice to meet me and that he'd see me around. Keep in mind, he does not know what floor I live on at this point. Then a few days later, I see him again at the mailroom. I said hello, but I made sure to act like I was in a hurry. But of course, he had to stop me and we talked again for like 5 minutes. Follow for part 2. I caught my neighbor trying to open my apartment door. Should I be worried? Disclaimers not my story time. I said me on Instagram. I knew he was going to talk my ear off, so I told him I was in a hurry and I had to go. Then he says, "No worries, maybe we should catch up sometime." And I said, "Cool, bye." I did not say yes. A few hours later, I get on my Instagram and I see that he started following me. I wasn't super creeped out at this point. I was just like, okay, maybe he's just trying to be friendly. I instantly went and blocked him from seeing my stories. I didn't want him to keep tabs on me that way. Oh, also, I forgot to mention I work from home. And I do have 2 dogs. My dogs are always pretty quiet. I've never had a complaint about them. They really don't bark. Since I work from home, I walk them about 3 times a day. And remember, at this point, he doesn't know what floor I live on. At least I didn't think so. A few days later, I decided to go have dinner with one of my best friends. I left my apartment for literally 40 minutes because I try not to leave my dogs alone for too long. When I get off the elevator at my floor, I see the guy trying to open my door. He was pushing the door with his shoulder. I yelled at him from across the hallway and said, "What are you doing?" Then he looked shocked. Then he said, "Oh, sorry. I heard noise in your apartment and I wanted to make sure your dogs are okay." How do you know I have dogs? Part 3 is up. I caught my neighbor trying to open my apartment door. Should I be worried? Disclaimers not my story time. Instead, I'm on Instagram. When I caught him red-handed trying to open my door, I asked him what he was doing. He said that he walked by and heard my dogs making really loud noises, and that he just wanted to make sure that they were okay. My dogs were making 0 noises, and how did he know I had 2 dogs? And how did he know what floor I lived on? I was officially creeped out. He saw the look on my face and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I was just trying to check on your dogs." That's when I told him that he didn't need to do that and that it was okay and he could leave now. That's when he started freaking out. He said, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I can tell I made you uncomfortable and I feel like I've ruined everything." That's when I told him that he hadn't ruined anything because nothing was going on. Then he said, "Maybe you should give me your phone number so that if something like this happens again, I can just call you." I said no immediately. I told him he could leave again and he walked away. He's halfway down the hallway and says, "Oh, we should still catch up for some coffee or something." What? I am concerned, but I don't know if I'm just freaking out for no reason. Could he have really been trying to help? Or am I right to think that he was trying to break in? I emailed my landlord and they said that they've never had a problem with him before. What the heck should I do?
Am I wrong for embarrassing my father-in-law after I repeatedly asked him to explain his joke to me? I, 27 female, used to be an escort, a hooker, from when I was 18 until I was 23. I am not proud of it, but I also don't give an F because I did what I had to do to keep studying and a roof over my head. That's how I met my now fiance, 37 male, though he was never my client. We began to date when I was 25, and 3 or 4 months in after that, his brother-in-law exposed me. No idea how he found out, because there's no way my fiance knew, and thus we had to come clean in front of his whole family. Yes, I did that. Yes, he knows. Yes, he doesn't care. It was 2 years ago at that time. We got over it. After that, there was a span of 3 to 4 months in when my mother-in-law and some of my fiance's aunts and cousins policed their husbands when I was around. It was really weird, to be honest, because these dudes were like 40 to 60 years old and I wasn't that desperate. So my fiance shut their bullshit hard, and even when his family still gives me the side eye from time to time, we thought it was behind us. He proposed last year, and 5 months ago we found out that I was pregnant. We were really happy about it, and we told his family as soon as we knew. His sisters and younger brother were happy for us, but his mom took me aside and begged me to be honest with her and asked if it was really my fiance's child. I was taken aback, but I just rolled my eyes and said yes. She gave me some shitty speech about how she only wanted to make sure. Like, you would tell her, like, what, even if it wasn't his, you think you're gonna tell his mom, like, yeah, he doesn't know, but it's not his baby. Dummies. Well, last weekend we were at his parents with his family, and some of his friends were talking about the name, how he might look, just small talk. And my father-in-law said that he and his children have a birthmark in the inner thigh, and that even his grandchildren, one of my sister-in-law's kids too, got them. So our baby might too. And then he said, but how can we know from who he got it? It may as well be from me, my boy, or my brothers. And he and his brothers began to laugh. My fiance got mad, and before he could say anything, I said, I don't get it. And my father-in-law said, yeah, because it runs in the family. And I said, I don't get it. Why would he get it from you? And he began to get nervous and said, because, you know, it's just a joke. And I said, but I don't get it, and you all laugh. So explain. It got to the point that some of his friends said, hey, it's not funny. So he excused himself and left. Later, my fiance's brother-in-law came to me and said that I was wrong for embarrassing him like that in his own house, and that I knew what the joke was about, and because of my past, I shouldn't be surprised. Now they're all demanding that I apologize to my father-in-law. Hell no, don't you do it. Get out of here. Oh my, yuck. Yuck. I'm so sorry you have to go through yuck. Ugh, weird title already. Am I wrong for not agreeing to let my husband have a baby with another woman? Man, duh, of course, like what? Why? I, 32 female, am married to a great man, James, 36. He might not be so great if he's trying to get another girl pregnant, but let's get into it. Who is a sperm donor to his friend, Miranda, 35 female, and her wife, Vivian, 30 female. And they have a sweet little boy, and he is a very involved uncle. This all started before I was in the picture, and when I first started dating James, it felt a little weird at times, but grew to accept it because not all families are the same. Also, Miranda and Vivian are great. James and I have been married for a while and trying for a baby. Because of the pandemic, we decided to not actively try again until next year, but are still not using protection. Recently, Miranda approached James about being a donor again. He said that he needed to think about it and consulted me. And to be honest, I told him I was uncomfortable about the idea. Like I said, Miranda and Vivian's son was already in the picture before I came around, so I know I needed to accept it or leave. But now that I am his wife and trying to conceive myself, I just don't think that I can ever handle seeing another woman carry his baby. Very valid point, I agree with you. James understood my stance and suggested Miranda and Vivian find another donor or adopt. They refused, saying that they wanted their son to have a sibling that was related to him, and this time Vivian wanted to experience giving birth. This is... I don't know. I gotta pick my words carefully. This is kind of weird. James still refused, saying that he couldn't do it again. He tried to take all the blame, but I guess they were able to put 2 and 2 together and started asking me why I was so against them having a bigger family. I explained my reasons, and they said that I was being unreasonable and how my lack of pregnancy wasn't their fault. I mean, you didn't really make your case even better here. Like, this would make me want to say no even more, but go on. Since then, Miranda and Vivian have restricted access to their son, and I know that it's starting to take a toll on James and his family, because their son is technically the only grandchild. I know that my reasons are purely selfish, but am I really in the wrong here? Okay, I take back what I said about your husband. He's a good man. He respected your wishes, and he said no. Vivian and Miranda need an attitude check. They should be appreciative that he gave it to them the first time. Now they want to switch out who wants to get pregnant. Not his problem. Am I wrong for trying to talk my friend out of taking a paternity test? My friend Nick and his wife Jessie just had a baby. I'm close friends with both of them. The baby looks just like Nick. There's no question they are related. One of Nick's friends is a bit of a weird guy, and he brainwashed Nick into wanting to take a paternity test. Nick asked my advice on how to bring up this topic with his wife Jess. Oh, you don't, you psycho. I was shocked. I thought the relationship was good and they trusted each other, and the baby looks just like Nick. I started asking Nick questions as to why he thinks Jess cheated. What did she do that made him suspicious? He admitted that she didn't do anything, but he needs the test to be certain. So I told Nick that it's a bad idea and could really hurt Jess. She had an extremely traumatic birth, the baby was huge, she didn't get an epidural, and everything ripped. I think she might even have postpartum depression. What she needs is support and love, not accusations of cheating. He kept saying that he needs this to be certain and his wife should be understanding. So I asked him how he would feel if his wife asked for a paternity test for him and Anna's, his female best friend's baby, who was born last year. He said he would be really disappointed and just, and it would make him rethink their entire relationship, possibly even break them up. He said it's different because Jess doesn't have to spend money on and raise Anna's baby, thinking it's hers when it might not be. Nick is now mad at me for not supporting and helping him. He says that I'm a woman and I can never understand how it is to the father, and I'm not even trying to understand it, which is partially true. But I can say the same thing about him, that he is not even trying to understand how it is to be the mother to be basically accused of cheating after such a traumatic birth. So did I step over a line? Am I the asshole? Oh my god, this guy's gonna get his ass kicked, because that's what I would do.
Am I the asshole for telling my fiance that I want my ex-husband to walk me down the aisle on our wedding day? I know this sounds messy, but hear me out. My ex and I were together for 7 years. We got together at 18, got married at 20, and divorced at 25. Our divorce didn't end up in bad faith. We just weren't compatible as a couple anymore, and we wanted to explore new things since we were glued together since we were 18. We remained good friends after the divorce. I met my current fiance at 26 and we got engaged 6 months ago. I am now 28 and my fiance is 29. First, I didn't know how to bring it up to him about how I'm still close friends with my ex-husband. I had introduced them to each other, but I never disclosed any details of mine and my ex's relationship because I was afraid that my fiance would not be okay with it and would make me choose. My ex and I decided to never let him know, but a couple months ago, during a family barbecue, an aunt of mine slipped up and revealed how I used to be married to my ex. My fiance wasn't happy about this and almost broke up with me. He started growing wary of mine and my ex's friendship and wasn't comfortable anymore. After many conversations, we both decided to establish some boundaries regarding this. Till now, we were fine. So our wedding is in a few months and the topic of who will walk me down the aisle came up. My fiance asked if I had my parents or my brother walk me down the aisle, and while that was my original thought, I had another idea as well. I suggested that my ex-husband should give me away to him. Ex-husband to current husband, and it's kind of symbolic. He said he's not okay with this and I'm crossing a line at this point. He said he's tolerating the fact that I still have a close friendship with my ex even after I hid it from him for so long. He said I can do as I wish since who walks me down the aisle is my choice, but he'll never be okay with my decision. Am I in the wrong for wanting my ex-husband to walk me down the aisle?
Am I the asshole for refusing to take money from my daughter's college fund to pay for my stepdaughter's cancer treatment? I, female 36, have been married to my husband for 7 years. I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old stepdaughter who got diagnosed with cancer. Where we live, treatment is paid for and is expensive. My husband can't afford it on his own, so he asked me and I immediately agreed. I've pulled out what's left of my savings, sold jewelry, and family heirlooms to be able to help. I'm unable to help anymore and my salary barely gets us by as my husband no longer works. Now he's asked me to consider pulling money from my daughter's college fund. Am I the asshole for refusing to take money from my daughter's college fund to pay for my stepdaughter's cancer treatment? I was taken aback by the request and felt so uncomfortable when he said that because my daughter's college fund didn't come easy. I worked hard to be able to put it together and I have no energy to worry about how to get the money back. He didn't like my answer and got his family involved to convince me. He promised to get the money back in a year or two, and when I pointed out my daughter's academic process, he responded by saying health comes first. Him and my stepdaughter went to stay with his family, and he's saying that if I don't get my priorities straight, he'd rather stay with supportive, selfless people who want the best for his daughter. Am I the asshole for choosing to not get involved when my daughter threw away my wife's shampoo collection? I, 39, got married to my wife, Nellie, 36 months ago. Nellie and my daughter, 16, Megan, have never gotten along. They have lots of disagreements and have nothing in common, and it was obvious since the first day they met. I thought it would get better, but ever since we moved in together, it's gotten worse. Megan will throw her stuff away, and it's been basically a mouse and cat game. Nellie has special shampoo and conditioner for her sensitive hair, and she put them in the bathroom. Megan threw them away, saying she had no right to store them in the bathroom because it's not her house. Am I the asshole for choosing not to get involved when my daughter threw away my wife's shampoo collection? To keep the peace, I asked Nellie to just keep her stuff in the bedroom and take it with her whenever she wants to take a shower. She ended up agreeing, and last night Nellie took a shower and forgot her hair products in the bathroom. Megan ended up going in there and the shampoo collection was gone. Nellie freaked out and then they had a fight after Megan told her she dumped them out and she gave her a warning. Nellie broke down and I said I wanted to stay out of it, but she blew up at me. She said I keep letting Megan get away with bad attitude and unjustified behavior. I told her she should have been more careful.
You've got the most beautiful diamond. You've got the most beautiful diamond eyes I've ever seen in my whole life. The skyline is jealous, I'm looking at you, how you shine. The most beautiful time.
I'm 28 and the sole breadwinner in our house, and my wife, 32, of 2 years, is a stay-at-home cat parent, and we're struggling. She's had plantar fasciitis and PCOS since she was young, but nowhere near as bad as recent years. Today, she can barely stand for an hour before feeling extreme pain. We've tried every remedy to no avail, and no surgery can help. It's made it basically impossible for her to do traditional paid work on top of not having her license or degree. Manual and retail are right out, and the few places that did hire her and try to accommodate her quickly replaced her, leading her to decide on being purely stay-at-home. I also make too much for her household income for her to qualify for disability. I work full-time, but it's still not enough with our expenses. I usually go out door dashing to make up the difference, and that's if it's not preceded by a squabble over how much or how little time I spend with her and how tired I am. She pushes me to take nights off when we need the money and when I know there's lucrative bonuses to be had. I work 9-hour shifts starting at 6:45 a.m., but she often keeps me up until 1 a.m. because our preferred sleep schedules are so different, and a point of contention when I even allude to it. It's all had noticeable impacts on my health and sanity. I'm often left too tired to do any cleaning around the house, which, with 5 cats regularly climbing on everything and making a mess, is often difficult, compounded by a bunch of elaborate decorations she's made or bought that just feel more like moving parts to worry about. Any attempt to talk about it just makes things worse between us, since we've developed different ideas on how to do things and what our respective dream home looks like. I've always been more of a minimalist. She put me in charge of finances due to stress, and I'm overwhelmed trying to make sure that we have enough in the account. She frequently buys things for the house that we don't particularly need and insists on dining out when we already have plenty of stuff to cook, and tends to order out every other day. I've lost so many uncooked chicken breasts to this, which eats away at our savings. Meanwhile, I deliberately go out of my way to avoid spending anything on myself. Despite her telling me to eat, I skip lunch every other day just to save $1. I consistently tell her not to buy me gifts or throw parties on occasions like my birthday, which I imagine makes me look like a stick in the mud. I even opted out of my workplace's group health insurance just because it would have taken out too much of my check. I'm starting to wonder if this is even sustainable anymore. I honestly don't know what the best course of action here would be. Any input is welcome.
I was babysitting my friend's children and I was putting her 3-year-old son to bed, right? And as I was trying to walk out the door, he pointed behind me and he said, "Ghost." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Ghost, ghost." And I said, "No, babe, there's no ghosts in here. Do you want me to check for ghosts?" And I checked under the bed. I said, "Oh, no ghosts here." And then I opened and closed the door to like show him that there were no ghosts behind the door. I said, "Look, no ghosts. No ghosts." And then I tried to walk away and he kept pointing behind me and saying, "Ghosts, ghosts." And so luckily I had a friend who was helping me babysit and she had children of her own. So I thought maybe she knows how to handle this kind of situation. And I walked across the hall to the little boy's sister's bedroom because my friend was putting his sister to bed. And I walked up to my friend and I didn't want to scare his little sister. So I whispered to my friend, "Oliver says that there's a ghost in his room." And my friend said, "What?" And I said, I know. I told him there's no ghost. And I did the thing they do in the movies where you like check under the bed and stuff. But like he is very certain that there is a ghost in there. And my friend said, "Okay." So we both go. We stand in his doorway. We were like, "What's up, Ollie?" And he just kept pointing behind us and saying, "Ghost, ghost." And he's getting more and more upset, right? He's yelling "ghost" and he's more and more frantic. And my friend and I are pretty spooked at this point. We thought, okay, well, we're not going to do is freak out. But we are quite certain that there is a ghost on the premises. What do we do? Does Allie have any smudge sticks in the house somewhere or like fancy candles? And then all of a sudden from the other room, his sister yelled out, "Closed." And we both went, "What?" And his sister said, "He's saying closed. He wants to sleep with the door closed." And we were like, yeah, obviously. We knew that's what he was saying. We weren't scared of a ghost.
Am I the asshole for having a lights out wedding? I, 27 female, am the daughter of the most amazing parents. They're also both blind, and being raised by blind parents wasn't without its challenges, but we always found solutions. My parents have their own way of being fashionable, and rather than appearance, it's fabric and feel. I used to hate it as a teenager, but now I love it and I'm comfortable in my clothes. With the wedding planning, my future husband asked me if I was gonna be okay with the photos. He didn't mean it maliciously, it just didn't occur to him that I was originally planning to buy them clothing to wear. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wouldn't a fabric wedding be special? Essentially, the whole wedding will be in the dark. Am I the asshole for having a lights out wedding? I was inspired by the movie About Time and realized I don't want to dress my parents. I want them to enjoy our wedding the way they experience it. And I want to experience this special day as they would too. My fiance doesn't care, and in his mind, the moment I said yes, I was his wife. To avoid accidents, we're going to be using glow stick lighting and everyone will be provided glow bracelets and necklaces. My family is supportive and his brother loves the idea, but his parents are against it. They said it's not fair to punish the guests because my parents are blind. Part of his family is siding with his parents and are vowing not to boycott if we don't have lights. Beyonce thinks it's their loss. Am I the asshole for sending my coworker into anaphylactic shock? I'm being vilified by my coworkers and genuinely considering quitting my job because of this. I work a pretty standard day job and at night I help my friend at her restaurant. The restaurant serves an assortment of Thai cuisine. To be honest, I'm insanely picky, but I fell in love with the peanut sauce the main chef makes. He showed me how to make it and I make it about once a week and take it either with noodles or stir fry to lunch. People know this and a handful have tried it. It smells nutty and tastes muddy and it's white girl pad Thai basically. Lately my lunches have been disappearing or I'll open my lunchbox to find half of my food missing. Am I the asshole for sending my coworker into anaphylactic shock? I've been addressing it, but nothing's been changing, and I'm pretty sure it was one of the new hires. Thursday, I took my noodles, and my entire Tupperware was missing, which hasn't happened before. I'm pissed, but what can I do? A coworker shared her pizza with me, and that was it until today. My boss confronted me and accused me of poisoning my noodles because his daughter, one of the new girls, borrowed my lunch and has to be hospitalized. Turns out she was severely allergic to nuts and ate some, and boom. She used an epi and is now in the hospital. Her dad wants me to be accountable for her bills and condition, but I don't see it. She stole.